In July 2026, DingDong and Julian had the world's longest meltdown, a rolling 3-day marathon grievance stream where they accused Smiling Friends of being alt-right, accused Chris O'Neill for exposing his furry tuba vor fetish, and MAGA being his entire identity.
It wasn't as much at the time, but he got a lot worse as the years went on, to the point where, like, being MAGA was like his only identity by the end. I think by the end, at the beginning, the point that you're talking about, he was a little bit more of a human.
And claimed there's a plot to vanish or assassinate them.
We knew it was coming. Even on the thing of mysteriously disappearing, that was just like a month ago we told people about that, right?
Yeah.
That if we just suddenly vanish, just keep in mind, no, we were not. No, it's not that we did something to ourselves. Something like that probably ended up.
We're going to be going over a lot of the claims in that stream, no matter how outlandish, and whilst everyone has seemingly already branded DingDong and Julian to be obsessive nutjobs, we're going to try looking at things from their perspective, as a lot of what they said went over people's heads. The situation really caught wind on July 22nd when the Kiwi Farms account posted this tweet. Former co-hosts of OneyPlays, DingDong VG and Julian have been streaming almost continuously for a full day after saying that Chris O'Neill and his viewers are probably alt-right Nazis. There's not really a starting point, but this post made me laugh. And the post is one of the statements which reads, "I realized I was trans when I was physically attacked protesting for Palestine. I've spent years studying this shit. This is not a sufficient way to handle it. I want every fascist out." Which obviously makes no sense to anyone reading that out of context or even with context. The viral tweet came after DingDong and Julian had been streaming almost nonstop for about 3 days, ranting again and again about their past experiences with Chris O'Neill, Zach Hadel, and practically everything concerning OnePlays, including the viral clip where they say OnePlays ruined their life.
In the past, I had to avoid saying the word OneyPlays.
Yeah. And people
now
did pick up on that one.
I can say OneyPlays ruined my life. And now,
But before diving into it, a bit of context is in order, or perhaps a lot of context. About a decade ago at this point, DingDong and Julian were recurring guests on the OnePlays channel run by Chris O'Neill, a Let's Play channel where they grinded through games with some self-aware cringe humor.
Matt, yeah, let's have a slap off.
What's a slap off?
Where I slap you in the face and you try not to scream.
To scream, huh?
All right,
Okay.
we'll do it. Fuck, Chris.
You lost.
However, things got real sour. In 2017, Game Grumps employees were developing a dating simulator called Dream Daddy, which was a gay dating simulator with hot dads that had a queer male lead. DingDong and Julian, being the only gay men attached to the game, felt they had to speak up publicly after several of their complaints internally fell on deaf ears. Julian posted this brief and relatively tame critique on Tumblr. "Okay, sorry for the vague post. So yeah, Dream Daddy really rubs me the wrong way. Having watched its development and played a beta build, I just don't think anybody cared about creating a quality product while making it because they knew it'd get good reviews for virtue signaling, or whatever it's called, by people smarter than me." I'm sure that's really obvious to anyone reading this, but I wanted to go on record because for months I was told not to talk about the game in public and I hated having to be vague about criticizing it. I'm kind of glad I was forbidden from being a negative Nancy though. It kind of reminded me to put things into perspective instead of raging like a nerd. I hope it helps some gay 13-year-old kid learn to be okay with his sexuality so he can mature past that kind of poor writing when he grows up. As an aside, I think whoever the character artist was did a commendable job with the dumb characters they were assigned to draw, so at least somebody knew what they were doing. To who it may concern, I hold a firm belief that a creator's vision should be allowed to live on its own terms, no matter what. My impression on this case remains for now, but I sincerely hope I'm wrong about it. Neither I nor anybody else should be able to take your pride in what you've made away from you if you really feel it. And DingDong followed this up with a similarly tame critique on stream.
Firsthand being there in that office since that game was conceived and being made and worked out and everything, witnessing it firsthand, knowing everything that I know about it, I typically do not get offended by these sorts of things. This is the first time I think I've ever actually been offended by this sort of thing, just because not only do I know that the game itself is existing just for the sake of exploitation and preying on current mindsets, it wants to hit the Tumblr audience. That's why it exists. It's its whole purpose. But also seeing how it's been treated, how it's been handled, how loosely it's been kicked around and everything too. Like, oh, I talked to an LGBT person, so it's good, even though the game is just hollow. That sort of thing. It's upsetting. It's upsetting to me.
Things got really messy because several figures officially associated with Game Grumps went on a PR run standing by the game and putting distance between themselves and the pair of them, making them a target in the process. Fans of Game Grumps then doxed DingDong and Julian's information and leaked their personal details, including contacting their parents to tell them they were gay and in a relationship, which almost pushed DingDong to taking his own life.
When I got outed to my family as being gay a few years back, it was pretty bad. It was obviously bad. It was already awkward having a lot of people just kicking me off to the side and abandoning me after telling me to speak up about stuff. After the suicide attempt, next day, I talked to someone about it, and I don't even know how I'm supposed to get past this one. I have been demanded to go back to this stuff for years, and I don't even know how I'm supposed to get past this one. They seriously... I told them what happened. Julian told them too. We told them what had happened. I tried to overdose. Julian stopped me. He slapped it out of my hands. And him crying and breaking down in front of me is what got me to stop, because I realized he was the most important thing and he was someone who genuinely cared. I was going to remove myself because my entire life I have been used to the idea of nothing I say matters, nothing I do matters. I am here to basically help someone else go around and abuse other people. That's what I'm here for. Julian was my wake-up call, because it was the first time somebody genuinely cared like that, but that's why I didn't go through with it. So the next day, we're talking to somebody, and immediately they present the idea of, wouldn't it be funny, though, if, somebody, did do it, and they left a note blaming these specific people for it? That was not a joke. That was a serious thing that they had said immediately after, making it clear, you want me to fucking do it, don't you? You want me to do it, and you want me to leave a note, and you want to fucking expect me on this. Are you kidding me right now?
That clip was part of a rant from several years ago, which took place more than half a decade after the 2017 Dream Daddy debacle. At the time, a lot of fans didn't have much information on how deep the issues were. Apparently, several other people in the office were supposed to come out with concurrent statements on Dream Daddy, but they all wussed out and threw DingDong and Julian under the bus.
The reason we saw Dream Daddy is because Matt sent us the build. And a lot of the people at the office were talking to us about it too. I could go through names. One of them specifically showed me like a fucking 80-paragraph email he was going to be sending off to them, and said like, yeah, so I've been listing all these complaints too. So if you're going to be saying something on stream, here, read over this, because we could probably get on the same wavelength. I had everybody coming to me one by one saying like, so if you're going to talk about it, here's what you should bring up. We were getting into an argument about it because I was telling Julian, I'm scared. I'm scared to talk about this publicly because I know this is not worth it. He was getting mad because he wanted to talk about it because he said, everyone at the office is mad. Everybody's getting hurt by this. They're all coming to us because they're too scared to say something themselves. During that time that we went out then, on my phone, I was being sent messages of like things I should list off, things I should say. So that's why if any of it sounded out of character, it's because it was. I was trying to speak up for a lot of people there. This blew us off for a solid year in LA after this happened. And afterwards, when I talked to them finally about it, I finally got to have Matt acknowledge that, yes, he was doing that because he didn't want to get in trouble himself. He said he at least admitted later on to, like, Aaron about everything that, yes, he did show us it. Yes, he told us about it. And once again, you guys wouldn't know any of this, would you? Because this was completely behind the scenes. The only thing that was up front in public was that we initially said something, and it got to be bizarre and weird, which is why for so many years you guys were insisting, I guess these guys are just weird, and they just do things to be erratic. No, it's because people were just trying to cover this up the entire time. The reason that people were even trying to, like, keep us happy was just so we wouldn't say anything. Once again, half the people we knew were paranoid about anything ever coming out about the things they were doing behind the scenes. That's why, Matt, I would have liked to have been friends. I would have liked to have hung out. That LA trip for me was kind of the final confirmation of you're too prioritizing, like, of your work, that you're not going to listen to us. What's important for you is kind of the public appearance and not actually being there as friends. And that's too bad, because I can't do that. I can't be friends with a character. He wasn't the only one. Literally everybody that told us to speak up about it threw us under at the time. Everyone. Literally everyone. Julian, you could say that too, right? I can't think of
Yeah.
anybody. I can't think of a single soul.
No, even the one who showed you his big email turned out he didn't end up sending it.
Yep, he didn't even send it. He was just trying to get me to say something.
They also claimed their phone numbers leaking was no accident and it was done by someone they wouldn't name directly, but were particularly close to who used 4chan. This will come back up shortly. It's also important to note that fans at every point prior to the most recent stream were fully behind DingDong and Julian. Julian left a post up on Tumblr in 2018 explaining why he was leaving OnePlays. So folks are still asking me to be more specific about my reasons for leaving OneyPlays. First off, let me apologize to the folks who have had their feelings hurt by my reactions here on Tumblr. Anybody who's called me bitter over the years is entirely correct. I have a misanthropic streak a mile long. DingDong introduced me to Chris and we started recording as a bonding experience. To be honest, I didn't expect to be invited back after that first session doing Luigi's Mansion. It was a casual thing. I never dreamed a show with me in it would be any sort of successful. And I started making little shoutouts to my longtime friend in hopes that he might someday stumble across the videos and appreciate them, just in time for him to walk out of my life. At this point, the videos started to take off and there were production problems as in any venture, but it was great fun for a while to be able to sit back and enjoy time with people I liked. I was able to afford to start furnishing my empty apartment and internet people said I was entertaining. Still, I was quick to assume the success wouldn't last for something I considered equivalent to a bunch of cynical old dudes shooting the shit around a smoky poker table, and I was anxious to move back into work I considered more meaningful. Less and less time was spent on drawing and more time on the couch as the show bloomed into a business and it started to remind me of my wasted teen years. I've always had personal scruples about making money without having earned it and not even being able to claim that funding was going towards some kind of artistic project ate at me. We set up a Patreon so that we could break away from the channel, but the social media giant had a firmer grip than I expected. The merchandising quickly took a life of its own. When I was told talking dolls were in the works, I was haunted by visions of mountains bearing my face rotting in a landfill like so many Beanie Babies. I feared I was becoming a symbol. A character that wasn't allowed to express emotion lest some demographic become upset and decide not to buy a t-shirt. I don't even necessarily ask that people don't label me, but at least respect my decision to remove myself from an environment that makes me uncomfortable. This is my blog. It's a space I made to post whatever I want to. I give a sincere thanks to the many people who have stayed respectful of that, and I do apologize for snapping at those who didn't. I'm sure many more snaps are in store for the future. There's a lot of assholes in the world that I don't plan on holding back for. And I'm going to be doing my best not to mistake innocent folks for threats. It's hard. I don't trust most people. I'm aware that being pessimistic is considered a moral failing, but for now, I don't know any other way to be prepared for what life has to throw at me. And hey, if any of this makes you roll your eyes, you can take some solace in the fact that, as far as I know, nobody else is having this kind of public self-identity crisis as a result of video games and YouTube. So just think of me as an outlier in your world. Maybe someday my world will look a little sunnier. In the meantime, I'm gonna try to look for the best in all of you. So, all of that being said, let's try this one more time. To all the people who like OneyPlays out there, regardless of age, I'm really glad that the show was a cool thing in your life. I don't regret that, and I don't regret the fun I had with Chris and the others. It strikes me to realize that a lot of the hardest times I've laughed in my life were on that show. Those jokes have been immortalized. There's a chance I could watch an old episode when my memories have all gone, assuming I don't get mowed down by a bus. That's kinda neat. Ultimately though, if I could have my own way, it'd be nice to be a nobody again. And Chris himself chimed in to wish them well on their exit. I want to stay out of stupid online drama / conspiracies and all that shit, but before anyone gets any mad theories going, DD and Julian left OneyPlays to work on their own stuff. They didn't want to do it forever, which is fine. I do want to say that I have never had a problem with the fans of it, and I greatly appreciate the people that watch OneyPlays and enjoy it. I really appreciate the fan art and animations and remixes that come out of it. I'm not stopping as of yet. I do it cause it's fun and funding my projects. If you only watch it for DD and Julian, they're 100% officially done with it. So give them some peace and let them work on what they want to. Thank you for being understanding of it all to the vast majority of people that get that. This once again emphasizes that most fans of the show had no idea that there was any tension between Chris and the boys. You wouldn't think it reading either of their statements. But yeah, Julian's goodbye post is sort of relevant to why all of this has resurfaced once again in the big 2026. OnePlays announced a new line of talking Cory plush toys, and one of the relatively viral quote tweets was this: "Love OnePlays." But this is literally Julian's Tumblr post about being a marketable image and figure instead of a person.
Specifically, there was a Twitter post somebody had made. And by the way, it was not a negative Twitter post. We found about this a bit late. I think Julian
Like a few days later.
Yeah, Julian found out about it like a few days later. I was starting to notice, both of us noticed we were getting weird followers and everything on occasions, weird messages.
Whenever we get like an influx of followers, we usually know there's a problem.
Yes, because people don't really pay attention to us, which is fine.
The influx of activity meant they felt the need to be clear on where they stood with their experience on OneyPlays. And with that said, let's finally get into the days-long rant from DingDong and Julian. Starting off with the weirdest call-out in history when DingDong accuses Chris of exposing his tuba fetish with a sneak dissing comment on stream.
That's why there's so many vague comments taking shots at him in videos. They do it to a lot of people, by the way. Constantly taking vague shots at people over and over and over again. They did it to us, too. They did it to another situation, and a lot of people found out about it later and figured out, like, oh, that's what that meant. I didn't really get it, but now I get it. Yeah, they've been doing that for a long time. If there's something they say in a video that doesn't make a lot of sense, they're probably referencing an actual person that they're hoping to hurt through one of their videos. That was why they brought up the tuba thing in the one video. That was them trying to take a shot at me. And they were trying to expose people to the fact that I was a furry.
Right out of the gate, a lot of people saw this clip first and it made them unwilling to take anything else he and Julian said seriously. The clip in question is this one right here.
Can you believe that the real life looks like that?
Yeah, actually, I saw it the other day.
That's just physics.
Is that a big tuba? What is that?
Oh, I'm horny. Let's go into it. Fuck. I'm not horny anymore. Now I'm horny.
There you go.
A lot of people have already pointed how no one would know Chris was talking about DingDong's tuba fetish if he didn't out himself by complaining about it, and that's true. Most people would have assumed it was just a lame horny joke based on the platform looking like a horn. There's also this clip where Dee and Julian admits to outing themselves often.
Oh,
You gotta jump on
You
him.
wanted to play this because there's a frog.
You gotta bounce.
Listen, you're gonna throw it at me every episode. I get to do it to you a couple times.
I've done it to myself more than enough, Julian.
Hey, frog fucker.
Oh, okay, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, frog fucking.
Chris, I like it when they're old, not when they're young.
But most importantly, nobody really cares about what weird kinks they have. Using this as a stick to beat up Chris doesn't sit right because nobody knew what he was talking about to begin with and nobody cared either way. It is worth noting though that DingDong isn't exactly wrong about Chris taking snide little jabs every now and then, as he definitely did it to Mick at one point.
Smiling Friends party. For some reason it hasn't been brought up, but I have a feeling that was a source of some contention. And I specifically the I shook Chris's hand thing, which seemed to upset you in the moment. I wasn't sure if you were exaggerating how you felt at the time, but I have since heard that no, that actually did bother you. I don't know if you get what I was saying when I said I did that, and I just wanted to clarify that that was very much a power move, and I think everybody else understood that. I don't know why you didn't.
Just so you know, that was a power move.
What?
Nothing. Speaking of Smiling Friends, DingDong veered into that topic at some point and talks about how he thinks the show has some alt-right undertones.
Gee, an episode about getting overly offended and wanting to kill people. It's weird that that's a consistent theme, huh? It's in more than one episode even. The Hidden Worm Society running the government. That's why that shit is in there. You have to remember a lot of the people who were involved. You have to remember where a lot of these people came from prior.
This came off as wild because most people who've watched all 3 seasons of Smiling Friends wouldn't have even thought about it. It's almost impossible to respond to. If you squint hard enough, pretty much everything has a bit of a political undertone. The Halloween episode, for example, saw the forest demon killed and eaten by bloodthirsty party guests at the office because they thought he was doing blackface. And whilst that's going on, Charlie gets validated for not wanting to wear a costume.
See, that's exactly why I don't dress up for Halloween. Right there. That's the reason.
You know, if you really wanted to, you could call this alt-right commentary on cancel culture. And maybe it is, who knows. The show is filled with absurdist humor like that and is clearly meant to be enjoyed that way. Regardless, the Hidden Worm Society wasn't the only joke they criticized though.
I can go back to an example that's not even from the show. I only got to hear about this one because I don't watch the videos, but I had someone quote it at me and I'd be like, why are you saying that, man? That's nasty as shit. I had somebody at one point say to me like, I am bipolar and I am autistic and these are the things that I have and these are the things that I deal with. And I was like, what are you doing?
Pisses me off. That's like, I don't know if it's my autism or my OCD or my Asperger's or my schizophrenia or my bipolar disorder, but that
you
pisses
want it
me
all
off.
to look nice.
And they went, oh, you know, it's a bit. And I was like, that's not a bit. Where did you even hear that one from? And they told me, and I'd be like, man, do you know why he said that? Because he's seriously just trying to insult people who have to deal with things like that. That's why I said, I'm confused why people weren't able to pick up on this. I thought it was really obvious. I thought it was really clear, because in the past, everyone did pick up on it. I don't know what changed. Did things just get bad enough in real life that this kind of thing just gets ignored now and people don't even realize that that's where it's coming from?
This one sorts of comes off as a misunderstanding of the joke more than anything else. Zach wasn't mocking people who have to deal with multiple mental health issues. He was mocking people who pull out a laundry list of issues every time they run into a minor inconvenience.
Yeah, that pisses me off. That's like, I don't know if it's my autism or my OCD or my Asperger's or my schizophrenia or my bipolar disorder, but that pisses
You want it
me
all
off.
to look nice and symmetrical and like lovely.
Thank you for your medical records, Zach.
I wanted to make a video for a long time where the video is just the guy looking at the camera and listing all of his ailments. And then I wanted to start naming shit. He's like, yeah, I got a bullet wound, I got a scratch on my forehead. He just starts naming other shit too.
There is people like that who.
I got a limp, I got a weird foot.
You got a lamp.
I got a lamp, I got a bullet wound, I got a scratch, I got a bum eye.
DingDong also complains about Chris bringing up problems with Apu on stream when he explicitly told him ahead of time to not bring up anything political.
One of the rules that we had established immediately was, don't bring up intense political shit here. Don't try to, like, get drama stuff going or bring up, like, lol cows or whatever. Let's just try to focus on having a good time with the games that we're playing. And immediately, first recording session, bringing up problem with a poo, like fucking years later.
The context here is that they were playing a Simpsons game and it wasn't some large political agenda, it was a fairly harmless joke.
So it's faster to just let him shoot them and
Well,
you destroy them.
Apu's huge, dude.
That's why they don't use him in the show anymore.
He was too frightening.
Yeah,
he
was
scared
intimidated.
children.
He was growing between each season and got too big.
They couldn't fit him on screen anymore.
Apu, why do you talk like that? I do not know what you're talking about. Baby hungry, baby want pizza.
Once again, jokes really shouldn't be defended or even explained. It's completely fair for anyone to feel offended by a joke, and so there's nothing really necessary to say here in response. But for some reason, DingDong just kept hammering on how offensive every little thing concerning OneyPlays was. Like claiming the thumbnail for the Dustborn video was making fun of SJWs, and the video was coordinated to release alongside Trump's inauguration.
I don't watch the videos or anything, but I sure as shit did see the Dustborn thumbnails and everything. That was not a mistake posting that during Trump's inauguration and everything either. Clearly it was backlogged. Yeah, the SJW thumbnails and everything. Gee, I wonder why this is going up.
Dustborn was a viral shout game released a couple months before the election. The game was literally made because of Trump running/winning 2016. The SJW thumbnail are the Oney boys dressed as the characters from Dustborn. Why is DD doing this to himself? DingDong also claims that Newgrounds was a cult full of people talking to kids.
Out of any of these online websites and communities I've seen, actually Newgrounds kinda does feel the closest to that to me. I haven't seen this kind of loyalty being embedded into so many other websites the same kind of way. It is really fucking weird. And like I said, it's driving people insane behind the scenes. And just questionable things in general. Like, I was really confused why so many people that we ran into around Newgrounds, sure, yeah, the neo-Nazi over there is already a big enough problem, but what's with that one over there? Why are you all contacting a 14-year-old to befriend right now? You're all in your 30s. What is that about? Why does this keep happening? Because this is like the third one now.
This one genuinely did stump a lot of people as nobody was sure what he was referring to, and the best we've got is a couple of tweets claiming it's DD playing up the Little Pico incident. Everyone acting like he's talking about some secret underground NGP deal ring are morons. He's talking about when Dave and Jeff became friends with Little Pico, and that situation was literally just them giving a young Japanese artist a platform. DD is a schizo, we've known this. Next, as proof that Chris dogpiles on vulnerable targets, he brings up the New Guy comic from a really long time ago and claims that was made into a meme because the artist was trans and it was some sort of defense for PewDiePie.
And if someone would be like, no, they don't dogpile. Man, do you know where the New Guy meme came from? Do you know what that was even in relation to? Some trans artist made a comic that nobody even saw until one of them decided to make it into a big spectacle and double down on it. Because how dare you say something negative about PewDiePie? Wonderful, darling, innocent person PewDiePie who's never done anything wrong. Why would you feel good about something bad happening to a person who was paying people who were struggling and suffering and desperate $5 to hold up a sign that said death to all Jews and then monetize the video. How dare you? He got to where he was through hard work by exploiting others and hurting others, and I guess it kind of falls apart there, huh? No, I get it. The comic wasn't very good, but that was why that also happened.
Which is really weird since that whole thing went viral for a whole lot of different reasons, and merely looking at the comic alone, you wouldn't be able to tell that the artist was trans, nor does it have anything to do with what the strip is about. That's not to say dogpiling doesn't happen in these spaces, but this was a pretty bad example. All of these, in DingDong and Julian's mind, are pretty sound proof of Chris's steady descent down the alt-right pipeline to the point where being MAGA was his entire personality.
I think a lot of people got sucked into like the political culture war stuff. He wasn't as much at the time, but he got a lot worse as the years went on, to the point where like being MAGA was like his only identity by the end. I think by the end, or sorry, at the beginning, what the point that you're talking about, he was a little bit more of a human.
Yeah, I would say. He was a little more open-minded at the start, even though he still had these tendencies and everything. In terms of, like, well, where does he even, like, fall in, like, politically and everything? Because I know people want to say, like, well, you know, he's like, no, man. He was kicking off a lot of stuff back at the time. I mentioned the new guy meme, which, by the way...
Yeah, exactly. And
why do you think Kiwi Farms...
This is what I'm talking about. When it, yeah, you get sucked into, like, needing to... That thing that you're always talking about where you mention, like, oh, if you're on one political side, you need to be able to... You need to side by all of the issues that are supposed to matter.
No. But it's a frustrating thing for that too, because I don't want to even put somebody on blast in that kind of way either. Really, the politics of it was something I was trying to leave out anyhow, but that is what a lot of the crowd hovering around it wants from it. And it did get worse as time went on. After things continued along, like 2016, 2017, 2018. It's why going out with people, now every single night, everyone is going on and on and on about Pizzagate. Now everyone is constantly talking about these things. Everyone's bringing up more and more conspiracy theories. With Chris, I know that he actually has room to not have to be, mean. He could be nice. We've witnessed it on occasion. I could see that there was a heart buried down in all of that. But unfortunately, once again, when you grow up around all this, and this is the crowd around you, it starts impacting you and influencing you. And that's why he was making a lot of his own nervous decisions at the time, too, and then lashing out and kind of always pointing around at everybody around him.
It's almost too wild to be real. A more than 2-minute rant about how Chris went from being a nuanced person to becoming a hateful bigot based almost entirely on vibes. It comes off as weird and uncharitable, but you can tell they 100% believe it to be true. Another crazy clip to emerge from this livestream was Chris seemingly being eavesdropped on by DingDong whilst in the bathroom for talking smack about them after having read one of Julian's private books.
I mentioned it before, but I could tell they went through one of Julian's private books because they blurted out a thing that was in one of them during one of the videos. No, we pushed ourselves really hard. While they were just laying in our bed the whole time. And sleeping during the daytime and staying up all night, and we would hear them rustling around and doing whatever the fuck in the bedroom. I mentioned it that one of the days when we did play YIIK, they went into the bathroom and turned on the fan and went on their phone and said how it was going to be a video that was going to do really badly, and it seemed like he was really mad. And hoping that we weren't going to hear him, except he doesn't know our house. That fan doesn't cover shit. We heard the whole thing.
If that story is true, and we've pretty much seen by this point that DingDong and Julian are unreliable narrators, then Chris would look bad in that situation. This all went down during their brief return to recording for OneyPlays, and the whole process was a mess because they didn't want to get sucked back into that world.
I wanted people to at least be able to have some fun videos to kind of go out on, but simultaneously, it was a messy one. We got asked to do it completely on the spot, and apparently all the editors weren't contacted about it either. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. It was abrupt and completely out of nowhere. I was kind of on the fence about it. I was in the middle about it. Especially because they started going, and I could buy a computer, and I could have it over there, and I could come by all the time. And I said, no. We're not doing that. You're not going to get comfortable with this and that you bring us back into all of this and we start doing all this again. Absolutely not. We want to be working on our own projects. I'm not going to be losing time for that right now.
There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries, but it seemed friction emerged due to poor planning more so than anything else. They claimed the editors were rude over delays and Chris wanted Dropbox as opposed to a more convenient method for them, and it all just comes off as a situation that could have been resolved with even slightly better communication. And apparently the reason those lines of communication aren't better is because there's always been tension between them.
Yeah, I didn't notice any of it because I also didn't watch a lot of those. I thought it read very clearly that at least we're like being funnier here and we're a little more confident. We're at least trying to be ourselves a little bit more. But I guess that is what people were taking in, because I did even see it back at the time that people had brought up like, oh my god, yeah, like they're like calling him out a lot and everything. It seems like none of them are really getting along, which is surprising. I remember I was like giggling like crazy during all of it. I thought I was in high spirits, but yeah, no, I picked up on it. I was in high spirits when I got to talk to Julian. It was, I think it was pretty obvious that there was tension between everybody. And that was why there was tension between everybody.
Immediately following this, he and Julian state that Chris was taking subtle jabs at them over the YIIK finale and putting the blame on them.
I think the finale was supposed to be a thing of keeping us stalled out and like continuously as a factor here, which is why every single time it got brought up after the first time, it always had to be some vague kind of insult slung towards our direction, like we messed everything up. And I can also speak to this. I did get to see there was a direct image board post that I'm pretty sure came right from him to insist that we messed up the entire thing. Which, if you guys follow us and if you know anything about us, no, we commit ourselves very hard to the things we do. It's why I put up with all that to play YIIK to begin with, even when the game froze and even with all the grinding, and that's why I reverse engineered the game. No, I put a lot of effort in, actually. It was really unfortunate. And it's why it took someone having to donate money for them to eventually say that there was no finale. And having kind of their mannerisms slip out a bit, being a little bit backhanded to people over that. For example, the slanty smiley face thing is being done sarcastically whenever it's being done.
Now, we don't know what direct image board post he's talking about, but in the stream clip he's referring to, there certainly wasn't any shade directed their way.
What happened to the finale to YIIK? Bro, I'm afraid we just canceled it. It just got too overhyped and it's just done. I'm sorry.
Is it okay to talk about the fact that you guys were making some cool custom stuff, or is that not even worth talking about?
That's fine. We got like a little bit into doing stuff, and then it was just too much work, and then all of our lives kind of caught up, and there hasn't been any time to focus on it. It was gonna, we overhyped it. It wasn't even that interesting. It was just the end of the game, and we barely said much over it.
Also, since it's such a huge sticking point, they may have been referring to the Reddit post Chris made, addressing the delays over the finale and rumors he was on bad terms with DD and Julian. Hello, it is Christopher. I'm making this post because I see weirdos on the subreddit making up rumors that there was a falling out between DD, Julian, and I, and that the YIIK finale is cancelled. I finished the edit of the finale months ago, but DingDong and Julian want to add some last minute edits to it, and our schedules do not match up at all right now. We want to do it together. As soon as shit relaxes on both sides, we'll slam through it and get it done. I went to Ireland for 2 months to see family and friends, and I just got back and got COVID. I want to get this episode out, but I have other work and responsibilities I need to finish before I focus on YIIK. Sorry. It'll take a few days of work, I'm guessing, and right now I have other things I really need to focus on. It's literally a Linkara ITLL be done when it's done. Ha ha ha. Sorry. But yeah, we have not forgotten it. It's basically done. I just don't want to shove it out before all three of us are happy with it. I am very sorry for how long it has taken, but life throws shit at you all the time, Truth is, sometimes I bite off way more than I can chew with doing jobs and people favors, and it piles up. But I am learning not to do that as much. So there was some sort of implication there that DD and Julian were holding things up over some last minute edits, but the majority of the post is him taking a responsibility for it. And even after he confirmed the finale wouldn't be coming out on stream, he still left a comment addressing it. I swear I tried to do the right thing, and somehow it's a big shady conspiracy. I wanted to put it out. I had finished some basic rough animation for it. The guys were busy around that time and have their own lives going on. It was hard for us to coordinate because they had more important things going on. It's fair enough to not make their world stop to focus on a Let's Play. It had been so long and I've been asked the question so much, someone literally paid to ask it, so I didn't want to rip them off by ignoring it. I didn't actually want to answer it in case we ever got back to it somehow, but it took me off guard on stream. I figured it would be good to address and stop people waiting for it. Things have changed a lot since then. DD and J have left the channel for good, and I want people to leave them alone and stop pestering them about this video. I have been dealing with health stuff and it literally makes it impossible for me to sit down for more than 10 minutes. The chronic back pain is not a bit. Why didn't I announce this sooner? I didn't know, lol. Sorry it ended up this way, but I promise you you're not missing anything crazy. And in response to a commenter asking if DD and Julian wanted nothing to do with him, he said, "We still talk regularly. We are all just busy and doing other stuff now. In regards to anyone else, I don't actually need to air out how I feel about people. LOL, it's no one's business but my own." So no matter how you slice it, Chris was practically raking himself over coal here to keep DingDong and Julian from being targeted from fans. Yes, there was some implication here that DingDong and Julian held up the process because they were busy, but even if that was true, he didn't seem to mind the fact, and the interpretation that Chris was throwing them under the bus here is just bad faith, which makes it all the more sad when they say things like this.
DingDong and Julian here.
This is doing a lot better now. Considering this is what's always been hovering around us, I'm sure it's a lot of stress off of his own end anyways, with us being able to move more off to the side. I know he doesn't want to hear about a lot of this stuff. I know it's why he was so concerned about that finale and why he was handling it the way he did.
I
He
do
was under a
feel
lot of
bad
stress
for
and
him
panic.
because it seems like he has a very unhappy life.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of it too. And the last time that we did see him, he was expressing he was pretty unhappy. He didn't like where a lot was going. He still wanted to, maintain this, tough exterior and everything. He wanted to still go with a lot of this, but I know it's something that's been impacting him since the start, all this. I hope he's doing a lot better.
It just comes off as mean-spirited, honestly. What's been particularly frustrating for OneyPlays fans is DingDong and Julian constantly trying to make Chris as the villain here. Like, despite the amount of times we've seen Chris ask fans to leave DD and Julian alone, they claim they're being stalked with Chris parking people out on their streams.
I mentioned it before, sometimes they got their friends to just be parked out in my stream to listen for anything that I would talk about.
So it's been said that a lot of this comes down to paranoia, and it's worth reminding people that's not invalid. They were doxxed for criticizing a silly game. Someone outed them to their parents, there were allegedly countless death threats, and one guy even showed up with a gun outside their house. That can't be overstated. It's to the point where they apparently can't even look at a Smiling Friends DVD because even that triggers some trauma.
Seeing a Smiling Friends DVD at the store freaked me out. Seeing everybody drop of Digital Circus freaks me out. It makes me feel like I can't participate in the world anymore. It's something that I need to be able to figure out. I mentioned a few minutes ago that, like, way back at the beginning when Dee didn't want to speak about these things, I threatened to break up with him over it because I was like, I feel like this is unethical. I feel like it needs to be spoken up about. I feel like people are gonna get hurt. People got hurt anyway. There's a really big problem. It's been tormenting for me for years that things related to OneyPlays, Smiling Friends, Digital Circus, etc. Has been like all this stuff. It bothers me a lot. It freaks me out that, like,
Julian stating that he threatened to break up with DingDong if he didn't speak up is toxic behavior, and it would have been grabbing a lot more headlines if it wasn't for the sheer amount of crazier clips to have come out of these streams. To be fair, Julian is well aware of his own toxicity.
I mentioned how I lost my faith in, like, everybody. I lost my ability to trust people, including Dee. That, like, I felt like, oh, if you're not willing to talk about this, then that's because you support it. Stuff like that. It's an issue. There are people who are actually trying to be good out there. And me, like, lumping them in with the bad people does everybody a disservice, does me a disservice, does them a disservice. There needs to be, like, a better way for me to be able to deal with my emotions. Dee trying to control me for all of these years is, like, really unfair to him. He shouldn't have to babysit me. It can cause problems. I put a hole through the wall, like, fucking, I don't remember how many years ago, like 7 years ago, something like that. I think we were still living in LA. I once told myself that I would never kill myself as long as I could continue to art. And, obviously I've, like, fucked up. I failed. I like a ton of times. I broke that promise both to myself and to Dee. I'm glad that Dee cares about me too enough that he wanted to keep me safe and that he's still sticking by with me, even though I understand why he wouldn't want to. When people do genuinely care about you, I try very hard to take that into account I thought he was my enemy at times. I thought that like he was a threat at times, when he was in actuality he was doing his best to help me. We've had conversations about it seems to be that just I process emotions more powerfully than other people. The sense of being silenced for me was really overpowering. That I felt like if anybody had any slight lean towards, hey, don't say things immediately, don't just come out and say things, that I always felt like I had been silenced. I always felt like, okay, you're in cahoots with them. You are also being a bad person, you're being complicit in things being bad. That when Dee Dee, I think it's an example that even came up, you know, as recently as that stream, that when I said the OneyPlays ruined my life thing, Dee Dee immediately was like, okay, they're going to take that out of context. They're going to try to make that into a joke. And I was aware of that, but it was that important for me to say it, that I knew, hey, this is a thing that a bunch of people are going to get really mad over.
So it's important to remember that years and years of abuse have made it so these guys aren't wired like everyone else. They certainly do need professional help, as lots of people have pointed out. So they may seem dramatic and overly sensitive, but that's because for them, it's a matter of life and death, seemingly.
I'm very sorry that if we end up, you know, mysteriously vanishing, so to speak, or something like that, that I was not able to fulfill all the game projects that I wanted to do. But I knew it was going to be a possibility that this shit was going to get us killed, so here we are, I guess. No. I'm very sorry, because yeah, a lot of people in chat are talking about like how stressful this is. I've been having this on my mind every day for like the past 10 years. That's why I've gone crazy. That's why I'm like, I can't relate to other human beings anymore.
But we knew it was coming. Even on the thing of mysteriously disappearing, that was just like a month ago we told people about that, right?
Mm.
That if we just suddenly vanish, just keep in mind, no, we were not... No, it's not that we did something to ourselves. Something like that probably ended up happening.
You know, if DingDong and Julian saw this video, they'd probably claim that a lot of it is taking them out of context, and they'd be correct. It's hard not to take what they say out of context when they constantly contradict themselves, tell half-truths, and demonize everyone and everything they don't find agreeable. They've been through some really heavy and toxic stuff which no person, YouTuber, game developer, or otherwise, should ever go through. Upon stepping away from OneyPlays in 2018, they've requested to be left alone and the topic be left in the past, even as they themselves can't seem to do that. OneyPlays was a huge part of a lot of people's lives, especially in the era when they were part of the channel, so whether they like it or not, if they give people something to talk about, they're going to talk about it.